The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hi there, I am Beth Weinstein. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to the Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I am so excited to bring this podcast to you. This has been in the making for a few years, and I'm finally getting around to it. And just so you know, the original title for this podcast was actually just called Medicine for These Times. I was downloaded this during an ayahuasca ceremony many months ago, and I was told that this is why this is so important, is that everybody has their unique medicine to share in these interesting times that we're in. So just to let you know a little bit about the show, I believe being on the psychedelic and sacred plant medicine path is a journey of waking up to your higher self. And in this, there's something inside of your soul that really craves fulfillment and freedom and wakes up and realizes that you want a lifestyle that aligns with your deeper purpose and who you truly are inside of your heart. And so if you've ever wondered how to make this possible and how to do work with more meaning, how to bring psychedelics into your business or start a psychedelic business or a spiritual business around transformation, coaching, healing, spiritual work, while being in service to humanity and the earth and in alignment with your inner truth, then this podcast is for you. So I'm a spiritual business coach. I help people start and grow transformational businesses. For example, coaches, healers, psychedelic leaders, space holders, and I teach you how to make money doing what you love. And in this, you also learn how to share your unique medicine that attracts in the kind of clients that you want to work with, so you can have a business with more abundance while being in service and living the life that you want to live on your own terms. I also help you integrate your own visionary experiences into your purpose, because if you are on the psychedelic and sacred medicine path, it is important to bring this into your work. As you can probably tell, work and business is a huge part of our lives. What we do for our living is really key, especially here in the Western world. It really makes up takes up a lot of your time. It's who you are. It has to do with your identity. So I do believe it's also important to bring your psychedelic work into your life's work. What I found in my own, experience working with psychedelics for over 30 years is that there's something that wakes up through working with psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. And I do believe that this is the higher self, the deeper purpose that lives inside of your heart. If you here are listening to this and have worked with psychedelics, I'm sure you've seen glimpses of this where it shows you the possibility for your life. And this is what I want for you. So my story, long story short, I first started working with psychedelics when I was about 14 years old. I'm now in my 40s, so it's been over 30 years. And of course, like many of us, it started recreationally, but it really woke up something inside of me. And I, from the time when I was even younger than that, about 8, I always knew I was here to be an entrepreneur. It was just inside of me. I could feel it. It was just who I was. But of course, I took the safe path. I didn't always believe that you could have money and fulfillment and freedom by just doing work that is in your heart, by doing what you love. I really didn't think that was possible for me, even though I saw others doing it. I took the safe path. So, I was raised in the kind of family that taught me to go to college and get a job and just stay there until you die. So I kind of did that out of number one, out of fear, and number two, I really didn't know any better. Although I knew, all throughout that time that I was here to be an entrepreneur. Of course, during all this, when I was in college, I was going to a lot of raves. I was a 90s rave kid doing all the drugs and having a good time. And in my 20s, it kind of continued on. I would dance. I mean, I always loved dancing, and I loved the feeling that I would get when I was working with these I hate to even call them drugs because I don't say that anymore, but medicines. But I also knew that it wasn't really, it was kind of more on the path of downward destruction. So I was working a corporate job in New York City, and I was really unhappy and unsatisfied with my work. So the drugs and alcohol became more of a numbing agent, and they kind of took me in a downward spiral. Thankfully, I was always very athletic and, grew up playing sports. So I somehow accidentally I got into running. Thankfully, I was into running because it was one of the healthiest things that I was doing for myself at the time. So yes, I was partying, but I was also running. And running essentially saved my life. And the one thing I started noticing, I started getting into long distance running, doing, half marathons, ultra marathons. And when I really started getting into running, I noticed that running reminded me a lot of dancing and being on ecstasy and having a great time with other people, even strangers. And I started to explore what this was all about. I was like, why is this feeling that I'm getting from running so similar to the feeling I got from dancing and taking ecstasy? So that kind of started this inquiry into how this all worked. Of course, I had already studied psychology in college. I was originally on a path to become a therapist. And, I was always really curious about the mind and its potential and what was inside of there. And, what could we do? What was possible? So in all this exploration, I was also, getting into running and working this crazy career. And through a series of what I call life initiations, things started changing very fast. So I had lost a job and then lost another job. And at one point, my father suddenly passed away, and it was all very quick and unexpected. And it really made me stop and take a good look at my life and question what life was all about and what working was all about. What was the point of, spending our whole life, either working for someone else or working for ourselves? If we didn't love what we were doing, what's the whole point, right? Because it takes up so much of our life. And so through a series of events after I had lost a job and really was questioning everything. So I took some time off and was traveling and had this epiphany in the back of a tuk-tuk in Mumbai, India on my birthday. And it was funny because it was right in late 2011 going into 2012. And there was all of a sudden just this shift in me that just said, no, I can't do this anymore. I need to figure out something that is more aligned with who I am, because it was eating away at my soul. So from there, I eventually, about 6-7 months later, went into early stage tech startups, which was definitely more aligned with me. I basically helped them grow and scale their business. And this is kind of what I did also in the corporate world as well. I used to run large teams and help the business grow. Essentially, throughout the time I was working in early stage startups, I kept thinking about this business that I wanted. And because I was really into running, this was already going on for many years, where I kept thinking about, why isn't there a better running apparel brand that's more sustainable, that's made for people like me who live in New York City, who care about our planet and isn't just mass manufactured in some factory in Vietnam? And I started thinking about this running apparel line that I would have one day. And it just kept getting more and more real. These thoughts of, what I wanted to create, it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I need to do this because I can't stop thinking about it. And there's something that's eating away at my soul. I need to give this a try. So while I was still working for other people in tech startups, I started my running apparel brand. I kind of had no attachment to it. I just did it because I wanted to, and I didn't know what would happen. And of course, I hoped it would grow. But I approached it from a place of non-attachment and just did it because it was living inside of me. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, it started to take off. And right when it started to take off and get some sales and get some press and, had a little cult following, all of a sudden, the jobs I was working, the people I was consulting for in the tech startup world, they just disappeared. So the universe just put it right in front of me. I went with that business. I ran that business for a few years, and I accidentally fell into business coaching. So over the years, many people would ask me, how'd you start your business? Or can we pick your brain? And, because I helped early stage tech startups, they wanted to hear more about that. And what should we do here? And so this went on for a few years, and I realized I was constantly giving people all this help for their business, but then I would sometimes see them a year or two later and nothing would change. They hadn't started their business, or nothing had grown, or sometimes they would even go out of business. And I was like, why am I giving people all this advice and then they're not getting anywhere? And that's when it really occurred to me that they needed to work with me longer than a quick phone call or a coffee date. And this is how I fell into business coaching. I got my first client because the next person who asked me for help or for a phone call, I said, look, you're not going to get any results unless you give this a go and I guide you through the process. And I asked for money and I said, work with me for a few months, and voila, that's how I got my first client. And next thing you know, my coaching business started taking off. It felt way more aligned with me than my running apparel business. And through all this, I was, over many years, I was already very deep on a spiritual path. It's always been a big part of my life. And about 9 years ago, I don't even remember, 10 years ago, I started working with psychedelics in a more intentional and ceremonial manner. So this was very different than many, many years ago of just doing recreational psychedelics, or even at Burning Man, where, of course, it was like somewhat intentional, but very recreational. I went to my first actual psilocybin ceremony. I had also done a hike with psilocybin, and something had shifted where it didn't feel like a party or a festival. It felt like connection. It felt like something in me was waking up. I could see the interconnection between me and the earth and the trees. And so I started to really inquire, wow, this is incredible. This is a whole new level of working with psychedelics. And then, of course, one thing led to another, and I was introduced to ayahuasca. And I honestly thought I would do ayahuasca once in my life, and that was it. I really had no intention of doing it ever again. Honestly, by then, I was actually very rarely working with psychedelics. It was, maybe once a year, and it was tended to be a little more recreational, but I wasn't, I didn't think of this as something that would be part of my path. I was already very deep into meditation on a Buddhist path and other spiritual practices, but the ayahuasca really woke something up inside of me. And that's where my whole life turned around. And I've gone very deep onto this path, done dietas down in Peru 4 times. Supposed to go again this year. We'll see. But this took me down this path. And in that, it really woke me up to what I was doing with my work. I was running 2 businesses at that point, and Um, I had gone into some dark places of like, how do I do this? And how do I grow? And how do I make money? And even at one point before I started coaching, with my running apparel business, I remember there was just this point where I was like completely lost. I didn't know what to do next. I felt really alone and I got stuck. And the one thing that got me out of it was getting support. I finally hired some help. I got a coach. I, learned things that I didn't know. I felt so much better being part of a community of people. And all of a sudden, things started to take off. My coaching business blew up like crazy. My running apparel business, I had to make a decision to either keep it going or shut it down. And I eventually shut it down. But, as this started taking off, something kept coming through about discussing the interconnection between psychedelics and sacred plant medicines and our life's work. And of course, the medicine kept telling me, start talking about this. It actually told me, make a summit about this. You should be speaking about this publicly. I had already been working with some clients on the medicine path, and I really loved it because we were able to speak very openly about going into ceremony or setting intentions or bringing back what happened in ceremony and integrating it into their business. So I already love this, and I dreamed of working with just medicine people. I was actually shown a whole vision about this during a dieta in Peru many years ago, and it showed me speaking about psychedelics and creating this podcast and going very public with it. But this was years ago, and it was a little scary to do that years ago before it really hit the mainstream media. But through all the support I was getting and through my coach and some communities I was a part of, I finally got the courage a few years ago to create the Psychedelic Sacred Medicines Purpose and Business series. And then I did another one, Psychedelic Sacred Medicines Purpose. I did two. And through this, I realized that there were other people that wanted to talk about this as well. I actually, when I first did it, I thought, oh, maybe I'm the only one that sees this. I have no idea. I have no idea what other people are getting out of their medicine experiences. So I was really called to discuss this interconnection between what it means to be on the medicine path and doing work that aligns with who you are, this conscious entrepreneurship. And a lot of people who are spiritually awake, who have been really transformed by their spiritual practices or sacred plant medicines or psychedelics, they tend to want to go into a place of service, giving back to the world. I do believe when you've done a lot of the work on yourself, eventually the deeper level work comes back to service to others and the planet. And this is what I wanted to talk about. And here I am with this podcast. So as soon as I got the support and I came out and found the courage to share my own voice and my unique medicine and speak very publicly about something that felt very scary, all of a sudden everything really started taking off. And not just my business, it was life. It's all interconnected. Lots of alignment and certain doors open and moving and manifesting all my dreams. It's not to say it's always easy. Of course, it was definitely rough at times, but there is a true path of your success that comes from tapping into your heart and getting the guidance to bring it to reality so that you can have freedom and success. And honestly, the one thing that I got the most out of this that I want for you as well is to feel that sense of liberation that comes from being your truest self. I felt like a weight lifted when I came out of the psychedelic closet. I felt like a weight lifted as soon as I got the courage to really speak about what was on my heart. And I didn't know if there'd be 10 people that like this or 10,000, but it didn't matter because it was living inside of me. And I do believe that there's something inside of all of us that wants to come out. And if it's not out, now is the time to bring it out. So look, I want this for you. If I can do it, you can too. If all my clients can do it, you can too. I believe that it's time to share your unique medicine. Why is this important right now? Well, look around us. If you haven't noticed, we're kind of in very interesting transitional times, and who knows what it's going to be like. I don't believe there will ever be a new normal again, or a normal, whatever that was. And there are people out there who are really going through it. These times of transition are not always going to be easy. They're going to be very challenging for many. And I do believe this is why more and more people are being called to do work that helps others, that really serves others. I do believe we cannot do this alone. We always need to have support. I always have support in my life, and I do not know how anybody's living through this time and this day and age without having support. I know what you're probably thinking. So I tell you that you can have this too, that you can have a business that you love, that aligns with your soul, and make great money doing it. But I'm sure you're telling yourself that you don't know what to do first, or you feel stuck, you don't know what to do next, or what will people think, or this one I hear all the time. I feel like an imposter. Who am I to do this? I haven't had enough training. I don't know, like so-and-so is better. Or there's so many other coaches out there. Or there's so many other healers. How can I do it? But look, this is what I help you with, number one. And number two, there is a way past all your limiting beliefs and your self-doubts and your fears. When you connect to your deeper mission inside of your heart and you really quiet down and listen to what's pulling you, I really believe it's a pull. It's a pull from beyond that you can't even explain, that's pulling you towards something else, something new, something that feels exciting and inspirational. If you just connect to your heart and really tune into this place inside of you that's pulling you, the doubts and those excuses and the imposter syndrome, they start to melt away. And another way it starts to melt away is by actually going and doing it. So embodying it, like putting it into practice. So in order to share your unique medicine, here are 3 simple tips to get you started. These are super simple. I teach this to all my clients. And of course, there's so much more to learn, but these are the easiest things you can start to do that will help shift your life and start to take you towards where it is you want to be going, or where you feel inside you is being pulled. So first of all, believe in yourself and believe that you do have your own unique medicine to share. Listen to what's inside of you. It is real. You can't ignore something that you've been thinking about for a few years or even months or however long it's been going on. So the first thing is just to own it. Like, own that you are here for this next level of whatever it is. You're here to be a healer. You're here to be a coach. You have something in you. You've already had your own deep journey with medicines and with life and with healing, whatever it was you were healing. And now you can bring that into service and give to others. So believe that you have something unique that no one else on this planet has. Believe that there's a reason why it's coming through you. Number 2, let go of all the attachment of what it's going to look like. So like I mentioned, the running apparel business I started, I did it while still working for others. So I always say, look, don't quit your job, but just start it. And when you just start it with this air of curiosity and fun and letting go of the attachment to, is it going to make money? And what if it fails? What if it succeeds? Like, how's this going to look? What am I going to do next year? What am I going to do if, drop all of that and come back into the present. You have to be present in today, in this moment, in the now, constantly. So the more you can just let go of the future and the knowing and the having to, attach to something out here and just come back to, okay, let me just make this a project. Let me just do this for fun. Let me get curious and see what happens. What would happen if I just started telling my 20 closest friends that I'm now offering healing sessions? Just put it out there and let go of having to know the future, because the reality is we never know what's going to happen or what the universe is going to deliver you. And That's one of the main causes of suffering as a human, is to be thinking about the future constantly. So bring yourself back to presence. If you have trouble with presence, I would highly recommend having a daily meditation practice. It's one of my favorite things, and I always recommend to everybody. The third step is just take baby steps to get it started and enjoy the journey. So one of the baby steps could be telling, all your friends about what you're now offering. That's a baby step. Baby steps would be going and looking out there and just to get a feel of who else is doing this. That's just a simple baby step. Baby step would be start practicing saying what you offer. So these are very simple, and really it's just about enjoying the journey, because if you're not enjoying it and you're not feeling inspired and you're not excited to get out of bed and get to work on your new business, then what's the point? Then I always say, look, if your business isn't inspiring you, go get a job. Of course, there's little parts of business that no one loves, like paying taxes, but it's really, it should feel, and it will feel like you're not even working. So just to recap, you have medicine to share. Let go of your attachments and stay present, and start with baby steps and just enjoy the journey. This is just the beginning of the Psychedelic Entrepreneur. We're going to cover so much more. In the past, I have interviewed such amazing leaders like Paul Stamets and Rick Doblin and Allison Gray and David Bronner, and so many more people on my summit. So you're going to hear from some experts that you might know, and then maybe some people you've never heard of. And essentially, it's going to be about this. What does it mean to bring your medicine to the world during these times? I believe that you deserve freedom and abundance just like me and anyone else. You deserve to live your purpose and make money doing work that you love. And here's one of my favorite quotes that I say very often. I've been kind of living by this quote since 2010 or so. If you do not change direction, you will end up where you are headed, from Lao Tzu. So don't stay stuck. Know that you can change. Know that it is available to you. And I do believe that you have the medicine in you to share with others. I'm Beth Weinstein, and this is the Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. Thank you so much for being with me. I really look forward to bringing you some amazing guests and some really interesting topics that we need for these times. You can catch our next episode. These will be weekly. I think my first guest, we're talking about what is psychedelic integration and what does it mean to be a psychedelic integration coach. Thank you for being part of this community, and have a beautiful day. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.